No. You keep your fingers together at the start, and only once you're inside do you make the fist. Otherwise you just ruin the carpet again, Oscar. Hi! Welcome to Unwind. The economy and my sense of self are in the same shape as my liver. Not great. My name is Reuben Kaye. I'm an international cabaret artiste, winner of Miss Pelvic Flawless 1984, and the only Norman Bates impersonator to really get the wig right. And this is Unwind, the guided meditation for the end of the world, the only guided meditation with a wine pairing. And welcome also to week 7 of isolation. Cue the air horn. No, we didn't bring that prop. No, it's live, we didn't bring the props, and we didn't bring us any sense of self-esteem. I know what we're all thinking. It's been 7 weeks, and that silent scream has stopped being so silent, hasn't it? Our humanity and social standards are falling faster than my underwear at a track meet. And I know in this trying time, the rules of interaction are being rewritten on a daily basis. What are we allowed to do? What is the new normal? And how long until I can shit openly in the street? And for me, that was last week. In fact, today. I'm doing it right now. We're all realizing that this is the part of the movie where we'd normally go out and get more popcorn. But we can't. We are trapped in it, stuck in a repetitive rut of trying to fill our days, and when doing enjoyable tasks becomes a conscious distraction from something much more all-encompassing and present, the joy is sucked out of them in the same way that Mitch McConnell sucks the life out of his victims so that he can live another century. Businesses are having to redefine how they interact with their customers while adhering to strict restrictions. This makes the customer experience more and more frustrating. For instance, I went to a pet grooming salon the other day and they were so finicky. Apparently the animal has to be mine and alive. Now how am I meant to have an open casket for that dachshund I found? As we spiral downwards, let's move on to a section that, when we first started, inspired me with joy and delight, but now fills me with fear and dread. And they are my 2 least favourite things to get filled by. Let's talk about the wine. Tonight's wine was made in the unwashed bathtub of a 1920s asylum for the criminally insane. It can be used as an aperitif, a palate cleanser, or as a chemical weapon. Yes, tonight we're drinking from Gaddafi's private cellar. You know, I spent 2 years as the middle of a human centipede, and I learnt many things during that holiday in Venice. Most of all, taste is not as important as texture, and this wine, if anything, really affirms that belief. And if I'm honest, makes me miss Venice a little. Anyway, tonight I'm drinking a wine that is too young but also too old. It's how Cardinal Pell feels about a 15-year-old. And this wine, this wine isn't just one red flag, it's about 4. But you know, after my last relationship, more than 3 red flags and you've got yourself a parade. So in the immortal words of Elvis Presley, more please. Now let's get on to the meditation. I have been inundated with mail since our last video. People messaging me saying the meditations have really helped in this trying time, and that after Unwind they had been kinder to themselves and more patient with others. But some people have asked me, Reuben, why a guided meditation? Why choose to put yourself out there in the public eye to help others when your only qualification is winner for the longest sustained cry? And the answer is simple. If the entire self-help industry can find a way to make billions from our misery, boredom and vulnerability, then what's stopping me from doing the same damn thing but in a sequin jacket and 7 pounds of cosmetics that almost certainly will make me sterile? So allow me to help you. Take a page out of my very short self-published book. It has pictures and a pop-up section, but that's not for kids. I'm here to put the "my" in mindfulness. You see, we're all going through this together, And although there is no I in team, there is a me. So let's take some time to focus on the me, or the you, if you want to be selfish. So let's get this party started. Or, in the words of Pink and Shirley Bassey, let's get this party started. Oh God, it's not so much wine as it is ground zero. So let's find a calm space. To use an overworked term, I want you to isolate yourself from any outside interruptions. It could be a pet, a cake you forgot to put to bed, or a child you left in the oven. Just distance yourself from any distraction. This is your time. Remember, it's your pandemic too. Also, my PayPal link is paypal.me/RRK Entertainment. Should you feel the urge to donate, remember that our impulses are our connection to our subconscious and ergo to the universal consciousness. Or some shit. I'm doing very well. So don't ignore it. I am currently using copies of the Herald Sun as toilet paper, and the idea of having Rupert Murdoch that close to an erogenous zone is just too much for me to handle. And with that picture in mind, drop into the breath. Recognize where it sits in your body and acknowledge it. Say hello to the breath. Make peace with it. Allow your body to tell you what it needs, what it's feeling. Give your shoulders a little shake and feel any stiffness. And let's roll them forward. And then take them back. Forward and back. Like a conservative government's policy on funding the arts. And now, allow your head, excuse me, get the cocaine out. Allow your head to drop to the side, drop the opposite arm, and just feel the stretch traveling directly up to the head. And now, put your thing down, flip it, and reverse it. That's it. Easy and slow. The two most common nicknames I had in kindergarten. Teachers can be so cruel. Give your sides a little stretch as well. Just shift your weight side to side until you feel your own neutral position. Now I want you, as you breathe, to allow that breath to travel along your extremities. Tension is not just held in the neck and shoulders, but also in the hands and feet. I want you to clench your toes and release them. Clench your glutes and release them. Clench your fists and release them. Release them. Release them. Do you know, as a side note, I've actually been clenched tighter than a vice since 2004, but that's on strict doctor's orders. At least I think he was a doctor. In any case, he was German and he gave me pills. Oh, how nice to know that my suicide was made in Flemington. Right. Now I know it feels that we're all broken and shattered and being held together by sheer hope and metal pins, like Gloria Estefan's spine. And I guarantee you, like Gloria Estefan's spine, once we turn the beat around and reach, we will conga out of this because the rhythm is gonna get you. Yes, I'm using Gloria Estefan's song titles as content for a guided meditation. And remember, if you don't like it, you're a homophobe. I know this sounds ridiculous, makes no sense, and sounds, to be honest, vaguely patronizing. Welcome to self-help. And now, as our bodies align with our base chakra, the same chakra for life, sex, and bowel movements, that's telling, isn't it? We find and isolate sources of tension. We acknowledge that tension, and we release that tension in a patented process I call breathe in and fuck off. Look back on week 7 and look at the stresses we've carried this week. It's a lot. So, Let's Marie Kondo this shit. Because if week 7 was this bad, week 8 is going to be worse than Sharknado 11, starring Al Pacino as Shark Number 4, directed by Michael Bay and choreographed by Steven Seagal. Right now, we're all finding new ways to cope. For instance, I've gotten shoulder deep in a game called Assassin's Creed, because at the moment, I just like seeing a topless muscled assassin murdering dictators and fucking his way through ancient Greece. And also, it's nice to say the phrase shoulder deep without referencing fisting. What I'm trying to say is we've all got a lot on. Some of you are masturbating so often you could send smoke signals from the friction. But another way to cope is to take the bad news of the week, breathe it in, and very loudly, clearly and purposefully say, fuck off. You try. Breathe in and clearly, purposefully, with intention, on the exhale, fuck off. The leaders of our countries are now trying to lift restrictions. We're all either welcoming the relaxation, protesting the relaxation, or confused by the approach certain leaders have taken that flies in the face of all science and common sense. I'm not looking at anyone in particular, Boris Johnson, Donald Trump, and Jair Bolsonaro, all of whom have argued that the damage to the economy caused by the lockdown is worse than the disease itself. Just to break that down, male, conservative, wealthy men are telling us that money is more important than human life. To anyone who said they'd rather die than vote left-wing, congratulations. Now's your chance. Breathe in and fuck off. British Prime Minister and publicly elected loin of pork, Boris Johnson, has made a frankly confusing and disturbing public address to the British public where he outlined the possibility of moving towards the idea of the thought of a motion towards the likelihood of the first sketch of an outline of an idea of a thought of a prospect of a musing of a lingering memory of a fart of a plan. This is a direct quote, by the way. This speech had it all and yet contained nothing whatsoever. Boris Johnson, I should say, is a man so rich and so dumb, he once spent 2 years interning as a croquet mallet before he knew what was going on. And now he is leading a country of 65 million people. He is the definition of sound and fury, signifying nothing but stupidity and incompetence. He slammed his fist on the table, he shouted, and he blustered his way through an attempt at charisma like a 4-year-old doing a class representation after reading the book Winston Churchill for Dummies. The public are more confused than ever. And on top of this, the UK government has only now started testing some of the people who are arriving at its airports. Now, after nearly 7 weeks. How sad to see a national government responsible for millions of lives with trillions of dollars at its disposal acting in such a shambolic, careless manner with a slower reaction time than Kobe Bryant's pilot. Breathe in and fuck off. Oh God, no. This is worse than that time my parents tried to have me spayed and neutered. Both seemed like overkill, but they definitely did not want me reproducing. Little do they know, I don't need a mate to reproduce. The Australian media continues their focus on sport and when it can possibly return to its former glory, while the Australian arts scene continues to flounder. Just to put it in perspective, the Australian arts industry contributes $111.7 billion to the economy, yet the government support for the arts in this time has been so poor and so badly thought out and so badly received it might as well be Madonna's next album. Venues are going into administration and artists are crowdfunding so they can eat and pay rent. Australian artists have a reputation for some of the most fearless in the world, and now they face an almost unscalable mountain with no support. When Europe has led the way in its support of artists releasing funds almost immediately to keep their scenes alive, the paucity of support from the Australian government is devastating, but sadly not surprising. So please, support artists where you can. They are flooding your screens with content throughout this pandemic. And I'm not one to bag sport. I love sport. Without sport, we wouldn't have sportsmen. And without sportsmen, I wouldn't have the base of my food pyramid. But it is never one or the other. Art and sport coexist. We both pull in and contribute cash, morale, community, escape, hope, and joy. And to the governments who view the arts as unnecessary or less than in comparison to the monolith that is sport, breathe in and fuck off. The family and friends of a railway ticket office worker who died of coronavirus after being spat on while on duty say the incident raises serious questions for her employer. Belly Mujinga was working on the concourse of Victoria Station in central London on 22nd of March when a man who said he had COVID-19 spat and coughed at her and a colleague. Within days of the assault, both women fell ill and Belly later died. There are people around the world with stories like this. The people who are deemed essential workers out in the public are not lucky to have their jobs. They are not lucky to have something to do. They are at risk and frontline and need to be treated with respect and care. And to anyone who thinks it's funny to cough on people as a joke, or anyone who weaponizes their own illness to endanger others and use this pandemic as an excuse for their own prejudice, racism, and misogyny, breathe in and fuck off. Fuck off all of it. Every last piece of it. Just let it go. And as you exhale, unclench and release. And breathe in through the nose all the way up. It's hard for me because what I have is less of a nose and more of a hybrid between a funnel and a beak. And as you breathe in, imagine the breath as warm, cleansing sunshine. Let it reach inside you, filling every last corner of your body. And as you breathe out, we can begin to take the good in the world. Oh God. As the UK men's gymnastics squad can attest, I've never had problems swallowing before, and yet... Oh! Actually, why am I doing this to myself? We actually have a good booze donation. This is very exciting. The wonderful people, I'll get a coaster because I'm not a monster or a heterosexual. The good people at this distillery, the beautiful Little Long Distillery, have managed to send me, they have sent me a lovely little batch of their booze in a moment of sheer generosity. So here we have one of their small batch Negronis. They are a wonderful distillery in the CBD and they're doing free delivery right now. Oh, that's gorgeous. Maybe I should have not used dried herbs when I put it in. I'm not a domestic goddess. Hang on. If people are sending me shit, does that make me an influencer? When do the millions start rolling in? Is someone going to slide into my DMs? Am I going to get rickrolled? It's going to be a whole new world for me. I'm going to become a monster. I can't wait to get cancelled. Anyway, on a remote Australian island, a major breakthrough for a rare species has occurred. 2 moorpork owl chicks have survived to fledglings, the first to do so in more than a decade. The Norfolk Island moorpork owl has an estimated population of only 45 to 50, making the pair a huge boost for the future of the species. Finally, an owl who speaks to my sensibilities. Now look, I'm Jewish, but pork is delicious. And if I had to choose between pork and religion, I'll choose the thing that's real, and the thing that comes with applesauce. Here's to the moorpork owl and nature's continuing flourishing in the times of corona. Cheers, and breathe in that light. Alan Jones, Australia's racist, elitist shock jock, and what happens if you shove 120 kilos of spite into a pig, then wrap it loosely in human skin, has announced his retirement, claiming that working so hard in the middle of a pandemic poses an egregious risk to his health, surprising absolutely no one in his attempt to make a global pandemic crisis all about himself. After decades behind the microphone spouting abuse, vitriol and loathing, Alan Jones will leave behind an impressive resume of encouraging racial profiling, inciting white nationalist violence, accusations of grooming schoolboys during his time as an English teacher, open support for the continuation of a colonialist policy championing the kidnapping of Indigenous children from their families, encouraging violence towards the female Prime Minister of New Zealand, suggesting that Julia Gillard should be put into a chaff bag and thrown into the sea, repeated use of the N-word, and a general disgust of women everywhere, and that is just a vague summary of his illustrious CV. And so, for the first time on Unwind, I want you to both breathe in that light, that good news story that a real fucking asshole is finally leaving the building. Breathe in that light, and then say very clearly, very loudly, and very purposefully, fuck off. Fuck off, you hateful, vile, archaic waste of space, and don't let the door hit your droopy ass on the way out. Cheers, and breathe in that light. Now, throughout the world, we see many lockdown restrictions that are being relaxed. From Asia to Europe to Australia and New Zealand, we see a move towards some sense of normalcy. Congratulations to these countries for listening to the science, acting fast, and not valuing the economy over the health of their citizens. This will be slow, but there is now the glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. Cheers, and breathe in that light. And on your breath, feel your body and where it's at as you return to the world and to the space you're occupying. You're back in the world, and our meditation is now done. Acknowledge our experience, our time together, and skull. Ooh, sometimes mama hits the booze, and sometimes the booze hits back. If you feel that tonight's meditation has helped, or if anything, not done permanent damage, then feel free to donate. My PayPal is paypal.me/RRK Entertainment. There will be links associated with the video you're watching. And I can tell you, 100% of these proceeds will go to a charity. Because if churches don't pay taxes, then why the fuck should I? If you are an artist, a zero contract worker or shift worker who is struggling in this pandemic, please do not feel the pressure to donate, I beg you. In fact, you are forbidden from donating. But if you want to do something, feel free to share this video and tag your friends. I don't want your money, honey. I want your love. Now look, I may appear to be more than I actually am. I may appear to be the epitome of glamour, confidence, and a true icon of masculinity, but deep down, I know that I'm just a drag queen in a basement spouting dick jokes and half-truths in the name of art and ego. And you may not want to take advice from the man who puts the gay in John Wayne Gacy, but let's be honest, it's not like you've got anywhere else to be. Day by day, we endure this. Some of us are lucky or privileged enough to not be immediately affected by this disease, but some of us are battling in a very real way for our sanity, our livelihood, and our lives. All I can do is hope to make you laugh, hope to give some escape, try and give you a tiny glimpse of the experience of a real moment of spontaneous human interaction without caution. So if you need a laugh, you need to take a moment. Take it here with me. In times like this, I remember what my mother used to say to me when I needed love and care. She'd lean forward, look me dead in the eye and say, "I'm drunk. Find your own EpiPen." My name's Reuben Kaye. You've been watching Unwind, and I have been screaming internally since March 11th. Good night. Oh shit, do I have to do this part? Fuck.
Oh please, Mother Teresa never used birth control. Welcome to my downward spiral. Wouldn't it be nice to be in a coma through this? I I'm an actress, a singer, and an award-winning cry for help. Heterosexuality's not a thing anymore. I'm the embodiment of gay culture. This is the new normal.